Hello, sir. My name is Fervin J.G. Kapuras, part of BITM S1G2, matrix number B0322104662. And me and my group will be presenting a video in which we would create a guideline to set up the following services for Linux: media, FTP, and various web services, using the software VirtualBox Manager to access Linux. As you can see, in my virtual machines, I have set up two virtual machines beforehand, which is the server and the client. This is where we'll be conducting the majority of the presentation that you will see in this video. The presentation will be split into three parts. The first part is designing and configuring a private virtual network using host-only adapter options in the VirtualBox. And the second part would be connecting using a static IP address between server and client. And finally, configuration of web, FTP, and media server. For this presentation, I'll be presenting the first and second parts. As you can see in the image before you, this will be the main or overall guidelines of the presentation, or a visual representation on how the setup for these services will go. Server Linux and client Linux, which are the two virtual machines that's already in the VirtualBox, will be all placed into a private and internal network. Its IP address will already be configured, so no need to change much. But in this part, we need to develop three interfaces or three connections. One for client and two for server. The reason why there's two for server is the server needs to both connect to the client using adapter 2, and on server adapter 1, it needs to connect to the internet. That relationship is called a NAT network. Okay, now that's out of the way, let's proceed with the first step. The first step is configuring the network settings. So let's start at the server. First, we'll need to go to the settings of the server in VirtualBox. Then we will proceed to network. Once we are at network, you will see all these adapters. In adapter 1, we need to make sure it's attached to NAT. That is the adapter that will be connecting to the internet and creating a NAT network for the server. And then for adapter 2, we need to make sure it's connected to an internal network. The internal network is the relationship towards the server and the client. And we can name it into anything we want. Let's name it into intnet for simplification. And then you click OK. Once that is done, let us proceed to the client and adjust its network settings. So let's go to client, go to network. But since the client shown previously in the image has only one interface, which is adapter 1, all we need to do is change it into an internal network, which would be connected to intnet, which is then connected to the server. Once that is complete, click OK, and we are done. Okay, now that you have successfully changed the settings for the networks for both client and server virtual machines, we can now begin configuring the new IP address to the client virtual machine. So activate your client virtual machine, apply its password, then head to the terminal. And once you're in the terminal, let's first determine if there are any networks previously available for the client. So we go more / etc. / network / interfaces. The etc. network interfaces is the main file in which we would access the adapter 1 for client. And there we go. This is what we see in the nano of this file. Source of this file here, sources, etc. network interfaces. Once that's done, let's access nano in order to change and apply the new IP address for adapter 1, which is sudo. Sudo allows us to have access to nano, and nano is where we will apply these new configurations. Nano / etc. / network / interfaces. And there we go. Apply the password, and there we go. Once that's done, you'll start seeing the screen, I mean. Once you're in the screen, apply this new line of code, which is auto enp0s3. enp0s3 is the name that's provided on adapter 1, which is connecting to adapter 2 of server. The name of adapter 2 server is enp0s8. That's why we're using this. Then iFace enp0s3 inet static. Then we apply the address, which is 192.168.1.5. That's the new address. The net mask, which is 255.255.255.0. The network, which is 192.168. I meant 168.1.0, and then broadcast, which is 192.168.1.255. There we go. Make sure everything's correct. Make sure the new IP address you applied is correct. Then we can save and exit by doing Control X, click Y, and then enter to apply this to the new network, to the new file. Then we can check if we successfully changed or configured it into the new nano or into the file /etc/network/interfaces. There we go. Once that is complete, we can then apply this IP address to the client by restarting the virtual machine. So let me restart it now. Okay, now that you've successfully rebooted your virtual machine, we can then check if we've successfully applied the IP address by using the code IP address show on the terminal. So let's head to the terminal now. Activities, terminal, and then we type in IP address show. And there we go. Now you can see here the inet, which is inet static, shows now the new IP, which is the address, which is 1.9.2168.1.1.5, and then this is the broadcast, which is 192.168.1 and 255. And there we go. Now that you've seen this, we can now proceed to the server. Okay, once you've completed configuring the IP address for client, we can now begin configuring the IP address for server. But instead of adapter 1, we'll do it for both adapter 1 and 2 of the server. So let's apply the password. Head to terminal. Activities, terminal. Then we will check if server already has any available networks. So /etc/network/interfaces. There we go. Still the same as client before we adjusted it. Now we can begin configuring the adapter 1 and 2 to apply the new IP address and connect it to client. So sudo nano /etc/network/interfaces. There we go. Apply the password. And there we go. But instead of the previous lines, we will apply these lines. So auto enp0s3, which is the adapter 1 for clients. Then we iFace enp0s3 inet, but instead of static, we go for DHCP. The new IP setting, and then we proceed to the server or adapter 2, which is auto enp s8, which is adapter 2 of the server. iFace enp let me rephrase, EMP0S8 is not adapter 2 for server. It's adapter, or no, change my mind. It is adapter 2 for server. So I face EMP0S8, then inet static, then we go for address, which is 192.168.1.254, and then network, which is 192.168.1.0, and then finally net mask, which is 255.255.255.0. We won't be applying broadcasts into this. So once that's all completed, make sure everything's correct. Then we can now save and exit, which is Control X, capital Y, enter. Let's check, etc/network/interfaces. And there we go. Once that is all applied, we need to restart the server virtual machine in order for it to fully apply. So let's restart. There we go. We apply the password. Wait for it to load up. And then we head to terminal and see if we can check if it's fully applied. So we go show IP address. IP address show, IP address show. There we go. EMP0S3. inet, blah, blah. And here's the EMP0S8, which is the adapter 2, which has the new inet address, which is 192.168.1.254, and then the broadcast, which is connected to EMP0S3, which is connecting or broadcasting to EMP0S3. And then, once that's complete, we can now begin the testing the connection of the server and client. Okay, so once that's all complete, we can now test if the server and client has been successfully connected by adding this code to the client. Okay, now that we've completed configuring the IP address for both client and server, we can now begin the testing phase for the connection of those two virtual machines. So you head to client, apply the password, and then head to terminal, in which we'll apply this code to check if we've successfully connected both machines. The code is as stated, which is ping 168. I meant 192.168.1.254, and then enter. And there we go. Now you can see this will continue on, but it shows that both virtual machines are now connected. And with this, once this is successfully shown, you have successfully completed part 1 and 2 of the guidelines.